Hello folks, Simon here, welcome back to the channel and another Final Fantasy VII Remake update. Actually, this is a few minor updates, but I thought it'd be a good idea to clump them together and keep you guys up to speed. So, there's a new issue of Famitsu being released in Japan tomorrow. For those who don't know, Famitsu is a popular Japanese publication, and it's going to contain an interview with the Final Fantasy VII Remake developers, along with some of the FF7R news as well, or at least some insights. So, because this isn't officially translated into English anywhere, we turn to resident translator on Twitter, Audrey, who has very kindly been translating all of the Famitsu stuff recently. And I'll leave a link to Audrey's Twitter feed down in the description. So, the summary of some of the things that are going to be released in Famitsu, some of this stuff's already made its way online, is that the next installment's already in full development. We knew that already, but it is nice to get confirmation, especially during this time of global pandemic when, just game development's being interrupted all over the place, that, it's nice to just retain that confirmation. Interesting they couldn't go further with the Madam M massage scene, otherwise ratings would go up. I didn't even know that was a conversation, to tell you the truth, but there we go. If that was something you was wondering, that's the answer. And Roach was supposed to have a battle in Chapter 14. Yeah, Roach's story in Final Fantasy VII Remake does seem to abruptly end, doesn't it, after Chapter 4, I think it is. He's just never even mentioned throughout the rest of the game. But a little bit more on Roach in a short while. So let's go through some of the details here. Starting with a quote by Nomura in the magazine, where he says, this is talking about the release of Part 2. We know that everyone wants the next installment quickly. We would also like to deliver it as soon as possible. Since we were also able to see the line of quality from the first installment, we hope to make the next installment even better in quality. That can make for an even better experience. I think that means we would like to get it out as soon as possible, so please wait for it. I think we can clearly convey the direction when we officially announce the next installment. Right, okay, so obviously Square know that people are waiting now for news on the release of Part 2. Not necessarily just the release date, we won't be getting that, I would imagine, for a while. But just as to what direction the game's going to be going in. Is it going to be a full game release like Part 1? That's what we've been led to believe, for the longest time. But now, recently, there's been a couple of comments that maybe that's not going to be the case. That we're going to be getting shorter, perhaps, episodes, or just shorter parts of the story. We don't really know yet. So it would just be nice to look forward to some clarity on that issue. Nomura reassures us and tells us as soon as we get the official announcement for the next installment, then hopefully, some of those details, he says here, in order to convey the direction, will be a little bit more forthcoming. But yeah, Square know that we're waiting, we know that they're working on it, and we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. Hopefully, we might be hearing something over the next few months, especially because I believe Square has an event of some kind happening in August, and they didn't mention anything at the PS5 games event a few weeks back, so maybe they'll be talking about FF7R Part 2 during that event. We'll just have to wait and see, but I will keep you guys updated. Next up, this is an interesting one. Famitsu recently had a character poll for Japanese readers, and this was to determine who was the favourite or the best party members, or not party members, sorry, but just the best characters in general in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And while we don't know all the placements, what we do know is that Jessie was placed number 4. Nomura comments, I didn't expect her to be this popular, and then laughs. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not surprised by this at all, that Jessie ranks so highly, because I've got to say, out of everything that was expanded upon from the original game in Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think one of those things that's just been the most well received is the Avalanche members, and Jessie in particular. She just seems to have been a character that was just universally loved in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Not that she wasn't liked in the original game, but obviously, the Avalanche members weren't really fleshed out that much in the original. But here in the remake, they have been. And I'm just not surprised at all that Jessie has ranked so highly. She was a very, very well done character, which is really cool, because I suppose it could have gone the other way. When they're expanding on things, which we knew they were going to do for the remake, they could have made these characters really obnoxious and unlikable. They did get it right, so I'm very happy about that, and I know many of you guys are as well. But yeah, please do let me know. I wonder how this would compare to, to Western audiences, especially when we see the full results of this poll here in Japan from tomorrow. And maybe just let us know what your top 5 characters were from Final Fantasy VII Remake, or maybe top 3, or maybe just your favourite character. I suspect maybe Tifa will be number 1, since, you know, everybody loves Tifa, but I could be wrong, so please do share your own thoughts down that about that down in the comments below. Right, and then we have that little bit of information about Roach. And Toriyama says that there's a very high chance that Roach will be reappearing in the next installment, and then he laughs. So obviously, we already know that Roach is going to be appearing in part 2, or at least, yeah, I was going to say, or maybe the part after that, but definitely part 2. It has been confirmed. I believe Katase confirmed it a few weeks back as well in an interview. So his story did end quite abruptly in part 1, like I say, at the end of chapter 4. You know, if he was never mentioned again in any of the further installments, then that would have just been a wasted character. I don't think Square were going to do that. That's why I think that Toriyama's laughing here, because he knows that the party line from Square is that they're not allowed to confirm or deny anything. But it's so obvious that Roach is going to be in the next installment that, yeah, you know, he's got to laugh when he says it's only a high chance, because we all know he's going to be there. Okay, and then finally, this is an interesting one. The Avalanche Hideout. So, you'll remember in the original Final Fantasy VII that when you make your way to the bar, to Tifa's 7th Heaven, that you actually partake in the Avalanche meeting down in their hideout, which is accessed by that pinball machine that is built as kind of like a makeshift elevator, as a makeshift lift down into the basement below. And this wasn't present in the remake, or at least the player never got to see it. And, you know, I was wondering why that was. I think a lot of us was. We were surprised when we went to the bar that we ended up leaving without going down there. And I believe this is the first time we actually get an official response about this. So Toriyama says that we wanted to show that Cloud wasn't close with Avalanche. So that's why we removed the hideout as an accessible area. And you know what? That does actually kind of make sense to me. It doesn't really feel out of place, Cloud being part of the Avalanche meeting in the original game, even though he's only a mercenary, because it just, there isn't that same animosity between him and Barrett, for example, as there is in the remake. Yes, it's there. Yes, Barrett doesn't trust him. He even says that in the original. But it's more of a sarcastic distrust than anything else, whereas here in the remake, in the opening portion, Barrett is just not happy with Cloud even being there on the team, is he? You kind of feel like some of the other members sort of pushed Barrett to accept Cloud because they needed the help, but he really, really didn't want him there. And it might have felt a little bit disjointed if all of a sudden Barrett was inviting Cloud into their secret meetings and what have you, rather than just taking the attitude of, Cloud, you're a mercenary, here's your money, this is what you're going to do type of attitude. And I think that actually makes more sense. So I can understand why they did this in the remake now that we've got the answer here. It did feel a little bit weird not doing it as a fan, because we were kind of expecting to do it because of playing the original game. But I suppose if we didn't have that pretext, then it sort of makes sense that we wouldn't do it, if that makes sense. But yeah, just let me know what you think with this answer here. Do you think that Square made the right decision based on the direction of the characters in the early portion of the game not to have Cloud included in the Avalanche meetings? And I believe that's about it. Yes, so that pretty much brings us up to speed with the current Final Fantasy VII remake situation. So any further news on part 2, which, as I say, I'm hoping we'll be getting over the next few weeks, maybe next month, we'll start to get that official announcement. I will be sharing those with you here on the channel, so please do stick around, stay subscribed, or just subscribe if you haven't already. And it's been great to catch up with you again today. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.